Hello everybody, my name is Pixie and either welcome to my channel or welcome back. This is only my second video and it's Friday, so for my channel that means today is a folklore video. And today we're going to be talking about Mothman, a symbol of tragedy, fear, and fascination. I'm sure all of you have heard of Mothman. Mothman is a very famous figure in pop culture and American folklore. Yeah, I think we're just gonna dive right in and start talking about it. To start off with a description of Mothman, he is described to be about 7 feet tall, anywhere ranging from like 6 to 8 feet. A humanoid figure with very large wings that are often described as either bat-like or moth-like, but relatively the descriptions remain that they're about, or that Mothman has a wingspan of about 10 feet or more. Other than Mothman's shape, he is most famously known for his large red glowing eyes. Though Mothman is said to have wings, it is said that he isn't often flapping them. In fact, most sightings of him, he's either standing or kind of gliding or hovering through the air. So where does Mothman come from? Well, Mothman's origins fall in the American Appalachian folklore realm. Specifically, the main place of sightings are in West Virginia, specifically Point Pleasant, West Virginia. And this area kind of hugs the Ohio River. The alleged sightings of Mothman started in 1966, and we'll go more into depth about the first couple of sightings as they are like pinpointed as the most important, obviously. Because Mothman's folklore started in 1966, he doesn't have a ton of information about him. The folklore is relatively new, and most folklore stories are or have accounts dated way back, and for Mothman, this folklore is very specifically new. There are no accounts of Mothman before 1966, and some researchers have even found that there are no accounts tied to indigenous folklore, and there are also no accounts tied to pre-colonial times either. Mothman's name came from a Ohio newspaper editor when reporting on the first sighting in West Virginia. The editor chose to call the creature Mothman after the DC Comics villain Killer, or the Killer Moth. The Mothman name just stuck from that. Now, an important part of the Mothman origin story is tied to a very unfortunate tragedy, and this is why Mothman became such a big figure in folklore and had such a kind of significant backing to the phenomena or the entity. About a year after the first sighting in 1966, the collapse of the Silver Bridge in 1967 occurred. This tragedy occurred during heavy rush hour traffic and very unfortunately resulted in the death of 46 people, and 2 of which have never been found. Investigation on the collapse led to the conclusion or the result of a structural failure, but the sightings of Mothman leading up to the event became tied to the notion of Mothman being a symbol of impending doom or looming tragedy. We'll get a little bit more into the connections made between the two, but also that's still pretty sparse as well. But for now, let's talk about the first sightings, as they are the most prominent. The very first sighting that seemingly doesn't really come up in a lot of sources as much as from what I've noticed, is that on November 12th, 1966, a group of 5 working gravediggers reported on seeing a human-like creature flying overhead, weaving through trees, and this was near the small town of Clenendon, West Virginia. I hope I'm saying that right. I looked up the pronunciation a lot, and I still don't remember. 3 days later, on November 15th, 1966, came the sighting that is the most popular and the most talked about, but it was 2 young married couples, Steve and Mary Mallette, and Roger and Linda Scarberry. These couples were driving through a kind of backwoods area near Point Pleasant, but also a little bit further out. They were specifically around this area that is called the TNT area, which is just a former munitions plant from World War II. While driving around the TNT area, the couples in the car spotted a large humanoid figure that they described to be about 7 feet tall, with giant red glowing eyes and massive wings, just standing on the side of the road. So one sighting has him specifically hovering upon seeing Mothman, and the other sighting is Mothman just standing. Even though they saw Mothman just standing, that didn't last long because the couples were scared out of their wits, naturally, and decided to speed off. They sped off so fast, in fact, they were reaching speeds about 100 miles per hour, and as they were racing back to the Point Pleasant city limits, they realized the creature was chasing the car, and not just chasing the car, but keeping speed and screeching loudly, but similar to the sound that a mouse makes, until the car made it into the Point Pleasant city limits, or like the city area. The couples were so frightened that they reported the sighting to police almost immediately. And this is the same sighting that the Ohio newspaper editor was referring to when the Mothman got the Mothman name. After these 2 sightings, approximately like 100 sightings and encounters were reported, but those are just reports. There could have been more. Who knows? But those 100 sightings came in over a 13-month period. That 13-month period ended up leading up to the collapse of the Silver Bridge. After the tragedy, the sightings and reports of Mothman significantly subsided, and due to that, many people started to believe that the sightings of Mothman itself and the creature were serving as an eerie kind of creepy omen to almost warn or tell people about the impending tragedy that was just around the corner. To this day, people believe that if sightings of Mothman pick back up, then something terrible for that town or area may just be around the corner. So at this point, connections between Mothman and the Silver Bridge tragedy were kind of more speculation, really up in the air. Like, people were definitely making the connections, but it hadn't been like formally written about or discussed until 1975, when a paranormal author named John Keel wrote the Mothman prophecies. This book argues that the rumored sightings of Mothman between 1966 and 1967, the collapse of the Silver Bridge, as well as other reported sightings of other potential UFOs in West Virginia, were all part of an interconnected phenomena. Also, I'm in like a vinyl blow-up chair, so when I'm talking, you hear like a weird little that kind of sound, it's the chair, and I'm trying not to move, but it's hard. John Keel's book, The Mothman Prophecies, went out of print for a little bit until later a movie was made, and then the book went back into print, essentially, and you can watch or read and kind of really get into depth on those connections if you would like. So the town of Point Pleasant really wasn't known for much, or up until the tragedy and the Mothman sightings. And since then, the town has really accepted its fame as the Mothman epicenter, and they have a huge, well, it's not silver, but it's silver in color, Mothman statue in the center of the town. And every year in around September, they host a festival to celebrate the creature, but they also use it as a celebration of resilience, where they have chosen to reflect on this. Hey girl.
Hey baby girl.
Hey girl.
Nancy.
I think I still don't like it.
Oh, whoa. You're cool.
Oh, head was not supposed to be blonde. But that's why I think the color's not, or it's still being kind of yellow, is because it's still trying to lighten.
I think it's like, I think you look really cool.
Thanks, girl.
I really like it.
Yeah?
It's weird, it's cool.
I'm in the process of changing my hair. I wanted to go for like a kind of ombre blonde effect, but it has gotten significantly blonder than I thought it would. And it's also a little bit yellower, so what do we think? Is it ugly? Should I commit to going like bleach blonde? I mean, it kind of already is there. Or should I go a fun color? I don't know. That's so off topic though. Sorry. Point Pleasant is turning the festival into a opportunity to kind of celebrate, not celebrate the tragedy, but make light of those lives lost, and turning it into a beautiful opportunity to welcome those from all over into their city and kind of share that very strange and fascinating story of this cryptid, this creature, in combination with a tragedy. So based on the sources I was looking at, they all relatively said the same thing and weren't really talking about if Mothman has been related to any other tragedies except for this one, and I'll get into that. So I was naturally very curious to see if there were other people talking about sightings maybe they have, or people they know have had. And so I took to trusty dusty old Reddit to learn a little more. And I stumbled across the post on the r/cryptid subreddit of somebody literally asking the same question I was having, if anybody had heard of or seen any recent Mothman sightings. And this post was from about a year ago, and a lot of the comments were from about a year ago, but as I was looking, there were a couple other comments from only a couple of months ago, and those ones really kind of stuck out to me. But even from the year ago, most people have been citing Mothman in Michigan and Illinois, specifically the Chicago area of Illinois, and there is some tie to the Mothman Chicago sightings to ominous and strange events that occurred, but I really couldn't find too much information on that and what those ominous events actually were or are. Two other Reddit users claimed to see Mothman with their own eyes, and they were also in Illinois, but then also in Arizona. And then there was one other Reddit user who claimed that there were a bunch of sightings around 2 cities in New Mexico. Now, one of my sources where I was really finding the bulk of the Mothman folklore made a comment about Mothman sightings potentially also being tied to Chernobyl. And I'm not gonna make any assumptions, but I found that interesting and thought I should share it. But I really don't know how much substance there is behind that claim, because that's simply all they said. They didn't talk about any specific sightings or really much of it at all. Here's my little girl. This is Opal. She's been sitting in my lap and she's trying to get up, but I don't want her to. She's such a sweet girl. But yeah, so I'm not gonna make any major claims about Mothman and Chernobyl, but just throwing it out there that it has been mentioned and speculated upon. As I said earlier in the video, Mothman is so new to folklore, and there's only so much information about this creature, which is what makes it kind of hard to like truly talk about him, but it also leans into the idea of why people are just so fascinated by it. People have a tendency to really fear or love things that they don't know. This is kind of why the Mothman legend is said to persist, because of that kind of exciting fear of the unknown. And the folklore of Mothman persists and is so popular because people want to believe or do believe in Mothman as a physical entity, or that Mothman is a supernatural entity, or that it's a psychological phenomena of mass hysteria. But regardless, the story in this kind of eerie unknowing just reminds people of mysteries and things that they can't explain. I personally don't believe I have ever spotted Mothman with my own eyes, but I am really interested in if you or anybody you know may have, and it would be really awesome if you would leave that in the comments and let me know. And if you believe in Mothman or if you don't, I I'm really open-minded and really open into believing a lot of things, and there are folklore creatures and elements that I truly, truly believe in and will respect and be polite around. But I have not had a significant experience with Mothman, and that's kind of what led me into researching him this week. Truly the biggest connection I've had to Mothman is in the area I live now. There's a cryptozoology museum, and there is a really, really large Mothman statue that's fuzzy and kind of scary, but it's also kind of cool. But yeah, that's really it for this week's video. It's shorter than last week's, again, mainly because there's just not that much on Mothman, and I'm hoping that as viewers and commenters that we can share a little bit more insight with each other. But also, like, I'm really curious if in years from now, when I'm like 75 or who knows, if there will be like another significant rise in Mothman folklore sightings and phenomena. I think that would be really interesting and would be cool. I really don't have much else to say, but that is the story of Mothman, a symbol or a creature as a symbol of tragedy, fear, and fascination. Thank you all so much for joining me this week, and I would also love suggestions for other folklore stories, so please feel free to leave those in the comments and I will happily look at them. Yeah, I want suggestions, I want new ideas. I mean, I'm always curious and I'm always looking into things, but if there's anything specific you want to hear me talk about, I'm open. Yeah, so thank you so much for watching, and stay curious. I'll see you all next week. Bye.